Book of Heaven, Volume 12, Part 10. February 6, 1919. How the soul in the divine will can form the hosts in order to nourish Jesus. I was fusing all of myself in my sweet Jesus, doing as much as I could to enter into the divine volition, to find the chain of my eternal love, of the reparations, of my continuous cry asking for souls, with which my always lovable Jesus longed for me ab eterno, and wanting to chain my little love in time together with that love with which Jesus longed for me eternally, to be able to give him infinite love, infinite reparations, substituting for everything, just as Jesus had taught me. While I was doing this, my sweet Jesus came, all in a hurry, and told me, "My daughter, I am very hungry." And it seemed he would take many tiny little white balls from inside my mouth, and would eat them. Then, as if he wanted to satisfy his hunger completely, he entered inside my heart, and with both hands he took many crumbs, big and small, and ate them hurriedly. Then, as if having satisfied his hunger, he leaned on my bed and told me, "My daughter, as the soul keeps enclosing my will and loves me, in my will she encloses me, and in loving me, she forms around me the accidents in order to imprison me inside, and forms a host for me. So, if she suffers, if she repairs and so forth, and encloses my will, she forms many hosts for me in order to communicate me, and to satisfy my hunger in a divine way and worthy of me. As soon as I see these hosts formed in the soul, I go and take them in order to feed myself, to satisfy my insatiable hunger that I have for the creature, to render me love for love. So you can say to me, 'You have communicated me, I too have communicated you.' And I, 'Jesus, my hosts are your own things, while yours are your things, so I remain always below you.' And Jesus, 'For the one who really loves, I am unable to consider this, nor do I want to. And besides, in my hosts, it is Jesus that I give you, and in yours, it is the whole of Jesus that you give me. Do you want to see it?' And I, 'Yes.' He stretched out his hand into my heart and took a tiny little white ball. He broke it, and another Jesus came out from inside of it. And he, 'Did you see? How happy I am when the creature arrives at being able to communicate myself. Therefore make me many hosts, and I shall come to feed myself in you. You shall renew for me the contentment, the glory, the love, when I communicated myself in instituting myself as sacrament." February 9th, 1919. Fears of Luisa. Jesus tells her that he has elected her from eternity for the sanctity of living in the divine will. I continue to say what is written on January 29th. I was saying to my sweet Jesus, how is it possible that I am the second link of connection with your humanity? There are souls so very dear to you, under whose feet I do not deserve to be. And then there is your inseparable mamma, who occupies the first place in everything and over everything. It seems to me, my sweet love, that you really want to play with me. Yet to the crudest torment of my soul, I am forced by obedience to put this on paper. My Jesus, have pity on my hard martyrdom. While I was saying this, my always lovable Jesus, caressing me, told me, "My daughter, why do you trouble yourself? Is it perhaps not my usual way to elect from the dust and form great portents, portents of grace? All the honor is mine, and the weaker and lower is the subject, the more I am glorified." And then my mamma does not enter the secondary part of my love, of my will, but forms one single link with me. And it is also certain that I have souls most dear to me. But this does not exclude that I might elect one, rather than another, to a height of office, and not only of office, but of such height of sanctity as befits the living in my will. The graces that were not necessary for others, whom I did not call to live in this immensity of sanctity of my will, are necessary for you, whom I elected, even from eternity. In these most sad times, I elected you, who, by living in my will, would give me divine love, divine reparation and satisfaction that are found only in the living in my will. The times, my love, my will, required this greater display of love in the face of so much human wickedness. Am I perhaps not free to do whatever I want? Can anyone perhaps bind me? No, no, therefore calm yourself and be faithful to me. February 10th, 1919. Jesus asks Luisa whether she wants to live in his will, whether she wants to accept the office of second link with his humanity, and whether she wants to accept his love as her own, and his will as life. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus came, and taking my hands in his, he clasped them, and with a majestic affability, he said to me, "My daughter, tell me, do you want to live in my will? Do you want to accept the office of second link with my humanity? Do you want to accept all my love as your own, my will as life? My very pains that the divinity inflicted on my humanity, that were so many that my love feels an irresistible need, not only to make them known, but to share them, as much as it is possible for creature? And I can share them and make them known, only with the one who lives in my will, completely dependent on my love. My daughter, it is my usual way to ask for the yes of the creature, to then operate freely with her." Jesus became silent, as though waiting for my fiat. And I remained surprised, and I said, "My life, Jesus, your will is mine. You unite them together and form one single fiat, and I say yes together with you. And I pray you to have pity on me. My misery is great, and only because you want it, I say, Fiat, Fiat." But oh, how annihilated and pulverized I felt in the abyss of my nothingness. More so, since this nothing was called to live life in the all. So my sweet Jesus united the two wills together and impressed a fiat, and my yes entered into the divine volition, and it seemed not a human yes, but divine, because it had been pronounced in the will of Jesus. And this yes, in the divine will, multiplied into many, for as many refusals as creatures gave to my sweet Jesus. This yes made the most solemn reparations, embraced everyone, as though wanting to bring everyone to Jesus, substituting for all. It was a yes that had the seal and the power of the divine volition, pronounced neither out of fear nor out of interest of personal sanctity, but only to live in the will of Jesus and run for the good of all, and bring to Jesus divine glory, love, reparations. My lovable Jesus seemed so happy with my yes that he said to me, "Now I want to adorn you and clothe you like me, so that together with me you may come before the majesty of the Eternal One to repeat my same office." So Jesus clothed me, and as though identified me with his humanity, and together we found ourselves before the Supreme Majesty. I don't know how to say it. This majesty was an inaccessible, immense, varied light of incomprehensible beauty, upon which everything depended. I was lost in it, and even the humanity of Jesus was small. The mere entering into the air of this light brought happiness, embellished, but I don't know how to go on in saying it. And my sweet Jesus said, "Adore the uncreated power together with me in the immensity of my will, so that not I alone, but also another creature may adore in a divine manner, in the name of all her brothers of the generations of all centuries, the one who created everything and upon whom all things depend." How beautiful it was to adore together with Jesus. These acts of adoration, multiplied for all, they placed themselves before the throne of the Eternal One, as though in defense from those who would not recognize the eternal majesty, or would even insult it. And they ran for the good of all, to make it known. We did other acts, together with Jesus, but I feel that I don't know how to go on. My mind wavers and is unable to lend me the right words. Therefore I shall not go on. If Jesus wants it, I shall come back to this point. Then my sweet Jesus brought me back into myself, but my mind remained bound as though to an eternal point from which it could not move. Jesus, Jesus, help me to correspond to your graces. Help your little daughter. Help the little spark. February 13th, 1919. Jesus speaks to Luisa about her new office. Continuing in my usual state, I was searching, and with anxiousness, for my always lovable Jesus, and he, all goodness, came and told me, "Beloved daughter of my volition, do you want to come into my will, to substitute, in a divine manner, for so many acts not done by our other brothers, for many others done humanly, and for other acts, holy, yes, but human, and not in the divine order? I did everything in the divine order, but I am not yet content. I want the creature to enter into my will, and in a divine manner to come to kiss my acts, substituting for everything as I did. Therefore come, come, I long for it. I desire it so much that I put myself as though in feast when I see that the creature enters this divine sphere, and multiplying herself together with me, she multiplies in everyone, and loves, repairs, substitutes for all, and for each one, in a divine manner. I no longer recognize human things in her, but all my things. My love rises and multiplies. The reparations multiply to the infinite. The substitutions are divine. What joy! What feast! The very saints unite with me and make feast, ardently waiting for a sister of theirs to substitute for their own acts, wholly in the human order, but not in the divine order. They pray me to let the creature enter soon this divine sphere, and that all of their acts be substituted only with the divine will, and with the imprint of the Eternal One. I did this for all. Now I want you to do it for all. And I, my Jesus, your speaking confuses me, and I know that you alone are enough for everything, and besides, everything is your own. And Jesus, surely I alone am enough for all, but am I not free to elect one creature, and together with me give her the office, and make her be enough for all? And besides, what do you care if it is my own thing? Can I perhaps not give you what is mine? This is all my contentment, to give you everything. And if you do not correspond to me and do not accept it, you make me discontent. And all of that chain of graces I have given you to bring you to this point of calling you to this office, you render defrauded. I entered into Jesus and did what Jesus was doing. Oh, how I could see with clarity what Jesus had told me. With him I remained multiplied in everyone, even in the saints. But as I returned into myself, some doubts arose within me, and Jesus added, "One act alone of my will, even one instant, is full of creative life, and the one who contains this life in that instant can give life to everything, preserve everything. So from this act alone of my will, the sun receives the life of the light, the earth preservation, the creatures life. Why do you doubt then? And besides, I have my court in heaven, and I want another court on earth. Can you guess who shall form this court? And I, the souls who shall live in your will. And he, brava, they are precisely the ones who, without the shadow of interest and of personal sanctity, but fully divine, shall live for the good of their brothers, and shall form one single echo with heaven. February 20th, 1919. In each created thing, God placed a relation, a channel of graces, a special love between the Supreme Majesty and the creature. Continuing in my usual state, I spent it together with my sweet Jesus, and he made himself seen, now as a child, now crucified. And transforming me into himself, he told me, "My daughter, enter into me, into my divinity, and run in my eternal will. In it you shall find the creative power, as though in act of issuing the machine of the entire universe. In each thing I created, I placed a relation, a channel of graces, a special love between the Supreme Majesty and the creature. But the creature would not consider these relations, these graces, this love. So God would have suspended the creation, not recognized and appreciated. But in seeing my humanity, that would appreciate such a great good, and that for each created thing would have its relations with the Eternal One, recognizing him, loving him, not only for itself, but for the whole human family, he did not look at the wrong of the other children, and with highest contentment he extended the heavens, dotting them with stars, knowing that those stars would be many and varied relations, innumerable graces, rivers of love, that would flow between my humanity and the Supreme Being. The Eternal One looked at the heavens and remained content in seeing the immense harmonies, the communications of love that he opened between heaven and earth. Therefore he moved forward, and with one single creative word, he created the sun as the continuous relator of his Supreme Being, endowing it with light, with heat, placing it suspended between heaven and earth, in act of holding everything, of fecundating, warming, illuminating everything. With its searching eye of light, it seems to say to all, "I am the most perfect preacher of the Divine Being. Reflect yourselves in me, and you shall recognize him. He is immense light. He is endless love. He gives life to everything. He has need of nothing. No one can touch him. Look well at me, and you shall recognize him. I am his shadow, the reflection of his majesty, his continuous relator. Oh, what oceans of love, of relations, open between my humanity and the Supreme Majesty. So each thing you see, even the tiniest little flower of the field, was one more relation between the creature and the Creator. Therefore it was right for him to want a recognition for it, one more love on the part of creatures. I undertook everything. I recognized him, and I adored the creative power for all. But my love towards such great goodness is not content. I would want other creatures to recognize, love, and adore this creative power, and as much as it is possible for creature, to take part in these relations that the Eternal One has spread throughout the whole world, and in the name of all, to pay homage to this act of creation of the Eternal One. But do you know who can pay this homage? The souls who live in my will. In fact, as they enter into it, they find, as though in act, all the acts of the Supreme Majesty. And since this will is present in everything and in everyone, they remain multiplied in everything, and can pay honor, glory, adoration, and love for all. Therefore come into my will, come together with me before the divine height, as the first one to pay him homage as the creator of everything. I am unable to say how I entered into this divine volition, but always together with my sweet Jesus, and I could see this supreme majesty in act of issuing the entire creation. Oh God, what love! Each created thing received the imprint of love, the key of communication, the mute language to eloquently speak of God. But to whom? To the ungrateful creature. But I don't know how to go on in saying this. My little intelligence was lost in seeing the many openings of communication, the immense love that came out of them, and the creature who rendered all these goods as though extraneous. Then, together with Jesus, as though multiplying ourselves in every one, we adored, thanked, and recognized the creative power in the name of all. And the Eternal One received the glory of creation. Jesus disappeared, and I returned into myself. February 24th, 1919. Man, the masterpiece of the creative power. As I was in my usual state, Blessed Jesus on coming told me, "My daughter, you have said nothing about the creation of man, the masterpiece of the creative power, in whom, not in sprays, but in waves, in rivers, the Eternal One poured his love, his beauty, his mastery, and taken by excess of love, he placed himself as the center of man. But he wanted a worthy dwelling. So what does this uncreated majesty do? He creates man in his image and likeness. He draws a breath from the depth of his love, and with his omnipotent breath, he infuses life in him, endowing man with all his qualities, proportioned to a creature, making him a little god. So everything you see in creation was absolutely nothing compared to the creation of man. Oh, how many more beautiful heavens, stars, suns he extended in the created soul. How much variety of beauty, how many harmonies. It is enough to say that he looked at man created, and he found him so beautiful as to become enamored with him. And jealous of this portent of his, he himself made himself the custodian and possessor of man, and said, "I have created everything for you. I give you dominion over everything. Everything is yours, and you shall be all mine." You shall not be able to comprehend everything, the seas of love, the intimate and direct relations, the likeness that runs between creator and creature. Ah, daughter of my heart, if the creature knew how beautiful her soul is, how many divine qualities it contains, and how, among all created things, it surpasses everything in beauty, in power, in light, so much so that it can be said that it is a little god and a little world that contains everything within itself. Oh, how much more would she esteem herself, and would not dirty with the slightest sin a beauty so rare, so portentous a prodigy of the creative power. But the creature, almost blind in knowing herself, and much more blind in knowing her Creator, keeps dirtying herself among 1,000 filthy things, to the point of disfiguring the work of the Creator, so much so that she can barely be recognized. Think you yourself of what our sorrow is. Therefore come into my will, and together with me come to substitute for our brothers before the throne of the Eternal One, for all the acts that they should do, for having been created as a prodigy of love of His omnipotence, and yet they are so ungrateful. In one instant we found ourselves before this Supreme Majesty, and in the name of all, we expressed our love, the thanksgiving, the adoration, for having created us with such great excess of love, and endowed us with so many beautiful qualities. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 12, Part 10. Fiat.